Meanwhile, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky welcomed the 30-day ceasefire proposal agreed at a Ukraine-US meeting in Saudi Arabia. Zelensky said that the ceasefire was a positive proposal that covers the front line in the conflict, not just fighting by air and the sea.
During today's talks, the American side proposed taking a first step forward, establishing a full ceasefire for 30 days. Not just stopping missiles, drones and bombs, not just ensuring security in the Black Sea, but implementing a complete ceasefire along the entire front line. Ukraine welcomes this proposal. We see it as a positive proposal and are ready to take this step.
Well, U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio said that he would now take the offer to the Russians and that the ball is now in Moscow's court.
Today we made an offer that the Ukrainians have accepted, which is to enter into a ceasefire and into immediate negotiations to end this conflict in a way that's enduring and sustainable. Hopefully we'll take this offer now to the Russians. And we hope that they'll say yes to peace. The ball is now in their court.
Well, on the other hand, Ukraine's decision to accept the U.S. ceasefire proposal was welcomed by the leaders. European Council President Antonio Costa and European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen, in simultaneous statements on microblogging site X, said this is a positive development that can be a step towards a comprehensive, just and lasting peace for Ukraine, highlighting that the ball is now in Russia's court. Well, Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk also said it seemed there had been an important step towards peace in the ongoing Russia-Ukraine conflict. And Anil Thomas now joins us from New Delhi to enlighten us more on the important story. Well, Anil, how significant is Ukraine's acceptance of the U.S. 30-day ceasefire proposal, and what does it mean for the ongoing conflict with Russia?
Well, good morning, Lepakshi. Well, it's been a turnaround that's huge. 11 days back, we remember how talks at the Oval Office, left the world in shock. But this particular move, 30-day ceasefire that Ukraine has been ready to accept, I would still, won't call it a big breakthrough, because there is still a long way for peace to come into play in this entire gambit. It's Ukraine that's accepted the part of the deal. And even America knows that, Vladimir Putin is difficult to convince, especially when it comes to matters like this. For the simple reason, even while Ukraine has accepted these talks, there are 337 drones that Ukraine has fired on Russia, especially, close to the Moscow region. And that clearly signifies that, Putin is not going to take this lying down. It's surely, I would say, a significant step, but I wouldn't still call it a breakthrough till the time Putin agrees to sign on the dotted line. This particular agreement that's happened between US and Ukraine, over a proposed temporary ceasefire in the war against Russia, is surely a welcome move for Ukraine, purely in terms of aid that, that was paused by America, once again beginning. And that's not all. Ukraine is looking at nothing beyond that. Remember, Russia gets to accept all the territories that it has captured, at least 20% of Ukrainian land. If things stand, I think Putin is not going to go off the table. Putin is not going to let go of any piece of land that he's captured. And, it's going to be more of annexation of Ukrainian territory. It started in 2014. I think it's gained significant proportions. Ukraine has more to lose. Remember, Ukraine is in a batch. If you look between the two nations, Ukraine and Russia, Russia is, significantly hit by, all the stops that many countries, especially America and other countries, have done with it, especially when it comes to trade. But Ukraine is devastated. So Ukraine has nothing to, or no position to move from the table. I think Ukraine has to accept whatever is on the table. And I think this turnaround within 11 days time that Zelensky has made is significantly a step in that same direction. And one big message that Trump sends with this, whenever there is conflict anywhere in the world, if there is Trump on the table, a truce is always on the cards.
All right, Anil. Also, as you mentioned, there are potential challenges in implementing the ceasefire and how Russia might respond to the U.S. proposal. But a comprehensive agreement for developing Ukraine's critical mineral resources also expected is on the cards. And simultaneously, U.S. have agreed to resume military aid and intelligence sharing with Ukraine. How do we see all that?
Well, that's the big step. That's the big positive that Ukraine looks forward to, especially military aid that comes in from United States of America. I think that's the only positive that Zelensky can look forward to, in this entire ceasefire deal that he's agreed for 30 days. This includes no fights from land, sea, or even air. And I think that's where, Russia will also be looking for some kind of reprieve, because as these talks take place in Jeddah, there is also, as I mentioned, the bombardment that Ukraine has done on it, and the suspension, especially of military aid and intelligence sharing with Ukraine, is something that Ukraine has been deeply affected, and they have been time and again asking for other countries to, help, especially in navigating or tackling Russia. But losing that kind of land, 20% of it, if the way things stand, because it will be very difficult for Putin to come to the, or rather Putin to get Putin to sign on the dotted line if you don't agree to what Putin wants. So I think it's going to be a big test for even Trump, how he manages to convince Vladimir Putin now, because the ball is now in Russia's court, because Russia has to decide. And
absolutely,
Zelensky time and again said that Russia cannot be trusted when it comes to these kind of things. So what does America do to make this talks concrete? And that signing that takes place, that becomes very much important, because if Russia does not follow it to the T, I think Ukraine will have the world's support. It has the world's support. The world will once again come
ball is surely in Russia's court, Anil. And ball is surely in Russia's court. We're yet to see what happens next. Thank you so much, Anil, for all those insights. And moving on, in a historic development, Syria's Kurdish-led Syrian Democratic Forces agreed to integrate into the country's state institutions under a deal signed with interim President Ahmed al-Shara. The agreement marks a major step towards uniting the war-torn nation after more than a decade of conflict. Celebrations broke out in the cities of Damascus and Qamishli as citizens welcomed the accord. Here's more on the story.
Celebrations erupted in Syria's capital, Damascus, and the northeastern city of Qamishli after Kurdish-led Syrian Democratic Forces, or the SDF, signed an agreement with the interim government to integrate into Syria's state institutions. Crowds filled the streets, chanting slogans of unity as the deal marked a major step towards stabilizing the war-torn country.